meeting. Let's have a pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, the first thing is approval of the March 18th Planning and Zoning meeting. Thoughts, questions, whatnot? Got a motion for approval?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? No. I guess it's announcements. Huh? Oh, no, yeah, public general plan, I'm sorry. So who's, Mike? Matt?
All right, well, thank you, Chair and fellow commissioners. It's great to be before you this evening. This is a milestone moment in our process of updating the town's general plan. Tonight, I'll be taking the commission through a brief presentation, and then I'll just turn it back over to you, Chair, and the commissioners for any questions. But I'm going to try and keep my comments brief because I think we all agree that we've had a lot of meetings getting up to this point, and we've certainly had to force everybody to listen to me talk in other meetings. So I'll try and keep my comments succinct and focused. And really, I think globally, the takeaway here is I want to try and present not so much the history of how we got to this point, because I think we covered that in a lot of prior meetings, but share with the commission more of what has changed in the plan based on or since we last met, i.e. based on the feedback that we received from council through the work sessions that we had after our last work sessions with the Planning and Zoning Commission. So it's really to give you an understanding of what changed since we last met. Now, I said that I would be brief. This slide is familiar to many. This slide projects the process as well as the timeline that is associated with this effort. We've gone over this multiple times, so I won't focus on any of the nuances other than to share that we keep getting closer to that June 2024 timeline, which then starts the clock in terms of being on the November 5th, 2024 ballot for voter ratification. So you can see highlighted there that the first step in getting to that formal adoption to put it on the ballot is a formal recommendation from the commission. And so that is what we're seeking tonight, following any conversations that we have. So overall, in terms of how much public involvement came into this effort, we all have spoken many times about this is a community-driven process, and so I just thought it would be worthwhile to summarize on a single slide all of the different efforts that were conducted to help inform this process. So many will remember that we had two primary surveys for this effort, if you will. We had many polls throughout the process, but the two most significant surveys that we presented to the community was at the beginning of the process, where we had the community survey, and we received 362 responses to that survey. And then as we got into the process and prepared the first public review draft, or the 60-day review draft, we also received comments on that document, and you can see there we received the 353 responses that we discussed in some of our prior work sessions. Supporting those surveys, we had community workshops. We had a total of 5 workshops. We had those in person as well as virtual. You can see we had a total of 116 participants in the in-person workshops that signed in. I would say we probably had a significant number higher than that. that may not have signed in, but we also had a good portion of the public join us virtually. So that's a good sign to show that there was a need in the public to both have the in-person and virtual options, and so we're glad that we presented those. To complement those workshops, we also had 4 pop-up booths where we had tables at the post office at the beginning of the process to inform residents, as well as during the 60-day review to let residents know that the draft was available for comment. In addition to those community workshops, we naturally had work sessions with council and commission to continue to review the plan at certain increments of the process. So total, we had 5 Planning and Zoning Commission work sessions and 4 council work sessions. Those typically focused on a specific aspect of the planning process as we worked through the plan. So as we had issues that maybe needed more attention or conversation, we would then have those work sessions to help inform the decision making. Supporting all that that I hope everyone found useful and beneficial is naturally we had the project website that was a resource for residents to collect project materials. And then we also informed residents through the typical social media postings and email blasts as well as utilizing any town newsletters. That is just the quick synopsis, right, of how we arrived at the plan that we'll be discussing this evening. The next few slides I'm going to talk through kind of the principal aspects of the plan, and something we didn't touch on significantly when we last met for the work sessions is just an understanding of when we initialized this effort, one of the first things we got together as a community is to take another look at the vision statement in the current general plan. That vision statement was a fairly lengthy vision statement over a page, and so through our conversations, residents and decision makers all arrived at streamlining that vision statement, keeping a lot of what was in that statement in the general plan, but making the vision statement more succinct that you see on the slide there, and then supporting that with some community values to present what is important to Carefree in a very user-friendly way, but to make sure we try to not lose any of that detailed content that came in the original vision statement, because everybody really liked everything that was in that. They just felt like we could be more pinpointed, and this vision and supporting values is what sets the foundation for the plan. Everything should be rolling up to these words. Now, as far as establishing that blueprint or what we're working towards, there was a couple different structures, if you recall, of how we could prepare or organize the plan to meet state statute as well as help be user-friendly to the public. And so the current general plan was laid out by topic area, and each topic or element is a chapter. We discussed that approach, and it's a traditional approach that works has been utilized in many general plans throughout the state. But more common we're seeing across Arizona is to use these theme approaches to better organize the plan. And so you can see here where we approach that theme structure and focused our topic or element areas into 3 key themes: scenic community character, open space and environmental stewardship, and prosperity and fiscal stability. And the idea here is that if we were to give this general plan to a new resident, we hope that they can pick up this plan, look at the vision statement, and see how the plan is actually organized, and quickly understand what things are important to this community, what do we hold dear to us, and what are we focusing on. And so within those chapters and those topics, naturally we have goals, policies, and actions that are used to facilitate or support the areas that we must address per state statute. Within that outline, we ended up arriving at 4, in essence, topic areas that we felt there was further conversation that needed to be reviewed for this final adoption process. And I think that's really something to speak on, that we went through this entire general plan and ended up in 4 areas that just necessitated some continued dialogue. And I think we made a lot of progress in terms of our conversations with Planning Commission and Council to arrive at some decision points for those discussion areas. And I wanted to take these next few slides to outline the clarification and feedback we received from Council in these areas. And so a reminder, those specific focus areas that required further attention was the conversation on a community park or the 48-acre state land site, discussions about the Carefree Water Company, notions about the residential above retail, and then of course the special planning area or SPA designation for the northwest corner of Tom Darlington and Carefree Highway. Now, getting into the first topic, the community park and the 48-acre state trust land piece. When we had our work sessions here at the Planning Commission, one of the commissioners mentioned to those residents in attendance that there was some residents that shared they would like to still see the general plan speak to open space and the community park at a higher degree. And so it was recommended that residents provide specific language or identify specific areas that outlined what residents meant by that statement. And so to those residents' credit, they did share some very specific comments, and so we then took those comments to council and vetted that process with them. One of the first comments that was shared with us is in relation to this figure 5, the land ownership map. On that figure in the original plan, we did have an error in our legend. The comment there you see states that the label on the original map identified certain land that was owned by the town as local park, and that was just straightforward an error that needed to be corrected, and we were appreciative that that was brought to our attention. And so this map on the page that you see here was revised to this current version to better distinguish between what was the focus of the map is land ownership, not uses, but who owns what pieces. And so we just updated this map to provide better distinction between what is private land, what is state trust land, what is county land, and what is town-owned land. Now, another comment that was brought forward is on page 39, where you can see that the page within the plan talks about existing conditions for the open space inventory within the town. So the purpose of this page in the general plan was simply to just take stock of existing open space that currently is found within the town. The comment goes on to state that that the topics within these areas had some additional language that discussed accessibility as well as envisioning access to these to some of these lands in the long term. And the public at that time shared that it's not appropriate on this particular page to be speaking to future access for these areas because, again, this focus is on existing conditions. And we felt that that was a fair comment, that this page is not talking about what will be or should be, but just taking stock of what is. And therefore, we agreed with that comment and thus took out any language that referenced recognition about future access and simply just clarified what spaces in this list had had either accessibility or was not accessible. And so if you look at the town-owned open space, the second one down, the last sentence there says, at the present time, this land is not accessible to the general public. And the same goes for the Desert Foothills Land Trust, that at the present time there is certain portions of that land that is not accessible to the general public, and we deleted any other references in those areas. Now, another comment that came through was on this particular page where there is a call-out box in the top right-hand corner of the screen that speaks to the 48-acre state trust land piece. As we all know, the trust land is managed by the state land department, and we're required by state law to work with the state land department in preparing this general plan and to coordinate with their land planning efforts within the document overall. And so we had been working with state land. They had provided a letter that was very strongly worded that they didn't like any indication of open space on their trust land. We shared with them that we respected their position on that, but we also emphasized that residents had a strong long-term view for this property, and really tried to work with the state land department to get them to be accepting of some refined language that recognizes their position that this land must be auctioned, it must be purchased at fair market value, that they were, state land emphasized that they wanted that language in the plan. And so we really worked hand in hand with state land department to vet that language in the yellow box there. We received comments from residents through this last go-round of the plan that they thought that we could reword that paragraph. We politely asked that we keep the language as is, given the fact that we work diligently with the state land department to be accepting of that language. And I think based on the input that we received through the feedback, residents were accepting and recognized that the challenges that we face there, and that we're trying to balance a couple different viewpoints. And so that's where we arrived at this particular edit or change relative to the 48-acre state land piece. Now, as we got into some of the goals and policies in the actual open space and environmental stewardship chapter, we did have a comment on goal OE1. Item 3 states preserving important historical and archaeologic features, and particularly the northern region with important petroglyphs. And the comment was that we would like to see added the 48-acre state land parcel where the historically significant Stoneman Road military trail segment is still visible. And that comment was a fair one in that we recognize really that condition could exist in other places across the town. And so what it brought, I think, to light is actually, rather than including an additional statement about the 48-acre state land piece, we actually removed reference to the northern portion in order to say that we should be looking at this across the town and not simply just two areas of the town, that we should be acknowledging this for any portion of the town that might have a historic or archaeological importance within the history or conditions of the town. So we went ahead and revised that item 3 to reflect that. As you can see on the slide, preserve archaeological and historical features found within the town limits, period. Again, we also had on goal OE2, item 1A should include historical significance. The term archaeological features was used to capture all types of past activity, but we did add conditions of historical significance for further clarity. So you can see there on item 1A, the second line from the bottom here, conditions of historical significance, to round out that statement and respond to public feedback. We also had include a second goal stating that the town shall or will, to the best of its ability, work to acquire open spaces that are accessible to the public. The policy will be to achieve this by working in collaboration with private and public entities to the best of its abilities. We felt that adding a goal that spoke to this, adding a goal that spoke to this particular one would be repetitive. We already have goal OE2 here that speaks to increasing inventory of passive and active open space throughout the town. So we respectfully shared with residents that I think this particular goal already accomplished in just different words, the desire for that specific change. So again, through dialogue at the council level, I think it was understood or accepted that this current goal would meet that need. So within that, then we made specific edits to some of our action items within the general plan as well. And so under the action item OSAC, you can see some effort there was made to take out some of the discussion on funding and build back in, utilize the Open Space Board to work in conjunction with like-minded agencies and nonprofits such as the Desert Foothills Land Trust, Carefree Park, and other interested groups or residents to define a strategy for funding, acquiring, and preserving open space in perpetuity. So there, the council had some requests to modify that particular language, and you can see that that utilize the Open Space Board was in essence just moved from action D below, because once we started to make edits, it just better, or it was more appropriate to be associated with action C than action B. So that's where the action items that support the goals and policies for the community park and open space ended up in the current draft. Now, as we transition from the community open space conversation, we did discuss the Carefree Water Company. There was comments shared about Policy 1C was drafted and revised under the context of promoting water conservation. We edited the comments in red were edits that were received during the 60-day review period. Following that 60-day review period, there was some residents that felt that item C there still, even though we reworded it, seemed to be advocating for encouraging higher pricing. We weren't trying to advocate higher pricing. We were trying to simply encourage utilizing variable rates to help encourage water conservation. That's a common practice across the state to use different water rates to encourage or promote those who use less water, pay lower rates than those who use more water, but we were not applying any specific rates to that. Regardless, the concern was that there was too much familiarity with promoting higher rates, and so we just agreed to take the comment out completely and avoid any confusion over the matter. And so I think it was all accepted that that was a reasonable solution, and we went forward with that change. In terms of the action items, there was residents shared the desire to want to utilize a resident water advisory committee to help facilitate and advise on water matters that go before the council, who also acts as the governing board for the water company. And through discussion with the council, you can see we updated item or action items OEAG and OEAH So under G, we added item 2, utilize a Town of Carefree Resident Water Advisory Committee to assist in preparing a more detailed water use study. And then on item H, we also highlighted on a routine basis, ensure the Carefree Water Company provides a report to the Planning and Zoning Commission and Council on the supply and demand for water. And so we added an item there, utilize a Town of Carefree Resident Water Advisory Committee as an independent reviewer of this report and provide their findings to the Planning and Zoning Commission and Town Council. So summary is that, again, consistent with public feedback, is a application of a Carefree Resident Water Advisory Committee was incorporated into the action items for future application. Now, that takes us into the residential above retail conversation. I think you all recall that there was a few parts on page 24 within the description of the town center land use. The language included a reference to this category allows mixed uses, including residential above commercial. And then on page 27, you can see in the items that are struck, there was another reference to having resident above retail space. We went back and forth with residents on this topic and also had further legal counsel conversation on this. It was determined that, that while we recognize that zoning is in place, therefore we can make select changes to the general plan, understanding that that is not going to directly impact the zoning that is in place. Residents understood that, but we're appreciative of the fact that at the general plan level, we would simply just take out the reference to state that this category allows mixed uses and offices and public, semi-public uses within the area bounded by Bloody Basin, Cave Creek Road, etc. And then the same goes on page 27. We just delete the reference to residential above commercial to be consistent with page 24. And so I think through dialogue, it was all understood and acknowledged on those changes, and those were accepted. So that brings us to the special planning area designation, or the northwest corner of Tom Darlington and Carefree Highway. You can see the two maps here. Simply put, it was a long discussion. I think a lot of residents and commission probably understand all of the specific nuances to that conversation about how the original SPA area was identified, what some of the language was that was included to try and, as I always say, create bumpers on that designation to ensure that it was not applied or used in a manner that it wasn't intended for. But through conversation, it was determined through council conversation that we should revert that northwest corner back to the very low density residential designation. So in the 60-day review draft, you would see the land use plan on the left. In the current draft of that is up for consideration this evening, that gray area or the northwest corner was removed, and all references to the northwest corner was removed. And so this page just summarizes all the other locations that had reference to the northwest corner. In order to remove it from the land use plan, we obviously had to then make sure that it was captured in all other places that it's referenced. And so we updated the land use distribution figure and the land use table. So we had a pie chart and a table that had to be revised. We had the land use plan, obviously. We had proposed goal 11 that was new following the 60-day review draft. We actually then took that proposed goal out We also looked at page 27, where we discussed the different growth areas in the community, and the northwest corner was one of those, so that discussion was deleted. That area is where we had majority of those bumpers that identified what could or couldn't happen in that northwest corner. As I mentioned, we removed the goal 11, and we also removed it from the matrix that is in the back of the plan, and there was one reference on page 80 to the northwest corner in the action items, so that was taken out as well. So with all of that, that is again just a quick high-level discussion of what was updated and revised since we last met. If you would like to discuss any of those edits in more detail, I'm happy to answer that. But just a little bit of by the numbers, and I hope that everybody in this room pats ourselves on the back and recognizes we've done a lot of work on this plan. It's been conducted over 19 months. If we look at the number of meetings, that's 18 meetings, and if you just apply a couple hours to each of those meetings, which I think is conservative, we've been working on this for over 36 hours, plus all the time that residents put in at home, getting over 1,600 individual comments. And then you can see there just a little bit of the facts that the existing general plan has 29 goals. We're a little more streamlined with 24. We have 176 policies in the current general plan. We got those down to a more succinct 127. And a reminder, there was no action items in the current general plan. And I think providing 31 to-do items, if you will, is a good place to start in terms of identifying where Carefree can go from here. And when I say from here, as I mentioned, Chair, tonight's about having conversation and hopefully arriving at a recommendation that we can take forward to council. That formal recommendation would then be heard by council. It's currently scheduled for June 4th. If we're able to achieve a supermajority decision at that June 4th meeting, then the 120-day waiting period starts to get this on the November 5th ballot for ratification. And with that, Chair, I'll turn it back over to you with any questions the commission may have.
Questions? Council? Nobody's got any questions?
Yeah, I'm concerned about whether there's a conflict between the fiscal stability goals and the removal of the SPA at Tom Darlington and Carefree Highway. The sources of revenue for the town are sales tax, state shared income, development fees, and if we remove that, I'm not sure where we're getting our revenue unless we are effectively endorsing a property tax. We can't raise our sales taxes. The town is virtually built out, so the development fees are not going to be a major source. And with the current deficit at the state level, I don't know how well we're going to do in state shared revenue. So I'm really concerned that how we are going to keep the town fiscally stable when we've removed one other potential source of revenue.
Well, I think if we go back to Peter's forecast, we don't even show a conversion till 2032. And this is one small area, the SPA area, which does not preclude someone from developing it. It just ensures us the ability to have what we actually want. So it's just giving us an additional leverage. And this may take 6 months, and in the grand scheme of it, what does 6 months mean?
Well, from my reading of the definition of a major change in the plan, if we remove this area as an SPA now, if an opportunity comes up, say to develop it as a resort, it would require first a major change in the plan. Isn't that correct?
That is correct.
And how long would that take to do a major change in the plan? And would that then somewhat sour the development?
I can't say for certain how long the major general plan amendment process would take, because sometimes that is predicated on the meetings and the need of the topic area. But I would agree that the major amendment process does align closely with the process we're doing for this general plan update. It doesn't require a ratification vote, but it does require the 60-day review process, and it does require supermajority approval. So there would be a series of meetings and timing that would need to occur for the zoning conversation to then move forward.
But it can happen,
But it could happen.
yes. And there's actually more flexibility now with somebody coming in if they wanted to rezone it than the SPA portion of it, because it goes all the way from residential, I mean, it's residential right now.
And I mean, respectfully, I would acknowledge Commissioner Smith's comment that the general plan is that blueprint for where the town is focusing its energy, where the town where the town is looking forward to future planning efforts. So there was one thought in our mind, back to Commissioner Smith's comment, that we've had a lot of diligent conversation about this SPA area, and I've heard a lot of thoughtful conversations from both sides of the conversation about recognizing that fiscal need. It is interesting that now, as we delete the reference to the northwest corner, there is no reference to the northwest corner in the plan. And so it does seem a little bit like we might have swung the pendulum maybe too much, in terms of, if we're all acknowledging that the northwest corner does have some significance in the community, it might be appropriate to at least acknowledge that in the plan in some way. I don't know the specific language, if anyone felt the same that I did, but in terms of the conversations that have been had, I would acknowledge that we've had a couple work sessions with commission and council to talk about this very specific topic, and so it does seem like we should acknowledge it in some capacity in the plan, but we wanted to, at minimum, follow council direction on this, and then see if there was discussion moving forward from there.
And Matt, I think that's a great idea. That's a half step, and I think that if you do acknowledge that there is a potential with the residents' approval and the residents' guidance, I see that. But what I'm saying is, I think to leave it in is gonna set us up in a situation that folks are not gonna wanna be in, and I think it's a matter of trust but verify. And I'll say that because I heard a lot about a boutique hotel in the town center, and we ended up with a Highway Hampton. We wanna have the right to be able to get what we want, and we don't, and I think a half step is appropriate. I think that's a very level-headed half step, and I understand, Commissioner Smith, about the fiscal responsibility. I totally get that. It's been said, the council said it, the mayor said it, everyone. We understand that. But I think a half step might be a reasonable solution. Thank you.
Any other questions, Steve?
Yeah, what was the council's thinking on eliminating it?
Well, there was others in the room, so I would let anyone else chime in. But I think one of the takeaways I had with the conversation is, it is a work session, so we can't directly have council vote, if you will. So it was just a conversation with council about what was the general direction. And so we took away from that conversation that council, I think some shared hesitation about, my memory suggests that some council members were conflicted with what Commissioner Smith is sharing, that they felt like there was a fiscal need, but they respected residents' feedback, and thus the direction at the time was to take the northwest corner out because, as Commissioner Johnson pointed out, that we could take this back at a future date. And so that's the direction that we worked with.
During our consideration of this, it seems to me that I've heard as many as 4, maybe more arguments about taking it out. One is just let's start over. The second one was that it was adopted during COVID and there was inadequate input. The third one was, we don't want a resort. And the fourth one was, we don't want any development. What you read and labored through all of those 365 comments or whatever they were, what was there consensus in the opposition to that? And if so, what was the consensus around?
If I follow your question, in terms of the 60-day review process, I think I would acknowledge that we heard a spectrum of feedback on the SPA area. Some probably don't like the idea of development there at all, but that wasn't very prevalent. I think everyone acknowledges that some development will occur there at some point in time. But I would think the majority of comments at the 60-day review period favored taking the SPA area out, but a lot of comments recognized also that there was a need to be fiscally responsible in the town. And so that's, I would say, where our conflict comes in, and what I acknowledged when we talked about it at the work sessions is that in our experience, when we have a difference of viewpoints on a general plan topic like this, that an SPA designation would be typically the middle ground, right? That the land use plan or the general plan already has a resort land use designation. So if we were gonna tell ourselves that this is gonna be a resort, you would just make it a resort land use designation. If you were gonna make it residential, you would just make it a residential designation. But we heard input about the conflict of, well, we're not completely sure it should be a resort, but yes, if it's gonna be anything else, we might entertain that. And so it did lend itself to being an SPA area with that description, if you will, of the paragraph that went with it. I've shared that before, so I hope that's not a surprise to anybody, but we heard through commission and council that residents understood that, but felt like it would be better to take a step back and take this down in incremental chunks. And so I think that's where the conversation went with council, if I roundabout answered your question.
Okay, you know, it's unfortunate that we're here because there were, as you pointed out in your presentation, there were 4 major, semi-major bones of contention as we kind of turned the last corner and headed towards the finish line.
Right.
And it seems to me that we've resolved 3 of them.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic that we get to the end of this entire general plan, and for all intents and purposes, we're talking about one item.
And it seems to me if we could find some middle ground that everybody could live with, we could all sing Kumbaya and walk out of here and have a drink together, which is where I'm trying to get to. So one of the things that, you know, that you said was that the SPA calls it a resort, right? But the zoning calls it for low-density housing. So we're kind of, I mean, we haven't moved to commercial straight away. We haven't designated it or zoned it resort at this point. We're kind of in a never, I mean, a balance where we're kind of in between on that. And some of the language that we struck, or that the council struck, was a goal, I think, or an action item that would have required, when we got to the zoning aspect, to conform the zoning with the general plan, that be an enhanced notification process with a broader, let's talk to everybody kind of a thing, beyond our normal notification ordinance. And that also seems to me to be a step towards compromise. I'm a little, I looked at the numbers, us being sales tax centric, we're just subject to a lot of risk. And we've seen some of this in the last legislative session, repealing the rented residential sales tax. Concern that we're sending to developers, if we back off the SPA, are developers going to hear the no development aspect of the opposition to the SPA and ignore everything else? I'm trying to figure out some place where we can find a position that we're not afoot and we're not horseback, but we can make it, we can try to accommodate everybody. The other thing that I'm a little concerned about is that we have, there has not been presented in my mind a positive alternative to the SPA. We've been dealing with this for, you said, 19 months. Nobody has come out and said, okay, it shouldn't be a resort, but it should be an X. Nobody has said, well, we've heard no development, leave it residential. We've heard no resort, and during the public hearing process, during the amendment, we went from like 4 pretty mamby-pamby conditions on the SPA in terms of how it could be developed to 9, plus a fairly extensive list of what cannot be there. The car wash, the drive-through, all of that sort of stuff. So it seems to me that public hearing process moved it closer to what the residents in that area, and that was focused on, that amendment process was focused on the abutters. I mean, we had town hall hearings, or town hearings in October on that, but the intensity of the meetings was focused on those people that lived there. But in the 19 months that this has been under discussion, I haven't heard, a lot of people want to take it out, we want to start all over. Okay, if you want to start all over, what do you want to build? And I haven't heard what that alternative is. We don't want a resort, maybe we want a car wash, or maybe we just want residential. There's been a lot of people that can all agree on saying take it out, but I don't see a vision, and this is a plan, remember? This is where we're hoping to go. I don't see anything that's been proposed or any additional conditions fomented for the SPA that would get us, still leaving us in the twilight zone between we have a land use and we have a zoning, but they're not in concert, so we can't get there. And the zoning provisions have been enhanced, juiced up, so it's going to be a greater hurdle to rezone it. I just haven't heard on, if not this, what? And it really concerns me we don't have very many opportunities for economic development. This is one of them. This whole thing came about as an economic development initiative because we are just very sales tax centric, and we don't have a lot of opportunity to deal with it.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but it goes back to the regular zoning, and what you explained in detail is that can be brought into planning and zoning and the council for rezoning or some kind of different reaction. Is that correct? If it stays the way it is right now, somebody can in fact request to rezone or do something different. It just goes into a longer time period, is that correct?
If the SPA is removed, you say.
Yeah,
No,
it-
if the
Yeah.
SBA is removed, you have to do a general plan amendment then. You have to put the
Yeah.
spa back, or something like it, back in.
Yeah, in essence, the only thing that could go forward, maybe not specifically, but residential.
Yeah.
If we took it out, the only thing that could move forward under the zoning is residential.
I've always
But-
maintained in a non-official thing, everyone ought to open everything up, open that corner up and then submit, for everyone to submit what they think it ought to look like when it comes into town, and we pick a winner. But I think we'll get a lot better idea of what to take a look at if we leave it the way it is now. When Scottsdale finally gets done to widening Carefree Highway, and you get the right-hand turn lanes in there, and you can kind of see things. Because right now, it's not a good place to get in and out of, in residential or this type of thing. So we can stand by when they finally get the road done. Is there any other comments from the,
The only other comment I'd make is that, you know, to Peter's point, I liked his kumbaya statement, that was good, but,
Nothing else?
well, there were a few other things in there, but, you know, this thing has been an SPA for how long? For 3 or 4 years, and nobody's jumped on it to do anything, so I don't think there's a line of people waiting, and if we take it off, it's gonna diminish that line. We've got another corner that we do have zoned to commercial, and why don't we concentrate, put all our efforts there, let's get that done, and then we can worry about this corner.
I would just point out that it's been zoned residential a lot longer than 3 or 4 years, and nothing's been done about that either.
I would agree.
It just seems to me, again, it just seems to me that the SPA designation gives you an opportunity to consider possibilities. We're gonna need revenue. The town, all the residents would still be involved in anything that was proposed because it would have to be rezoned. But, and we could commit to having advisory groups, but I think it just lengthens the process if there is an opportunity to get another revenue stream. I'm an economist. I worry about running out of money. And I don't think the residents are gonna support suddenly stopping repaving the roads, let all the culverts go to crap, because we don't have the money to take care of it. It's just something, we know there are expenses, and the expenses are gonna keep rising. And we certainly cannot raise the sales tax anymore. We're about the highest in the state, I believe, and that's a regressive tax. And so where are we gonna get the money, is what I worry about.
Well, bear in mind, Peter's forecast didn't include the northeast corner, didn't include any additional commercial.
But as,
And my forecast is wrong.
Yeah.
Well, we.
no, Peter said that himself, all
And
forecasts are
that's
wrong.
exactly right. I just
Mhm.
I think there's a middle ground here, and I think Matt made a good point. We can certainly put some verbiage like with the park. Would it be better to say that, you know, the words we put in for the park, I think was a middle ground? I think he's found a middle ground that I think we should support.
And I guess I respectfully disagree and think that an SPA with a commitment for community involvement in any opportunity is a middle ground. It's not committing you to a resort, but it at least identifies it as a potential source of revenue and can commit to an advisory group that will help review any possibilities that come along.
however, somebody can come in and make requests, is this gonna be a longer term, it'll be a modification to the general plan and a one item only, so it's not been taken out. So, I mean, the flexibility is still there.
True, but it is a major, it's considered a major amendment, so it's like going through this process.
Well, it's just rezoning,
It's a rezoning. It may take 6 months.
yeah.
Wait,
No, it's on page,
So if it goes back to
I
zoning.
think it's 85 of the, or 84 of the plan. It's specifically identified as a change in land use designation shown on the general plan, future land use map. That's one of the major amendments to the general plan.
But, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody can come in, as Matt said, and if they have an idea, they can run into rezoning on it, it'll be a 6-month process,
No.
consult.
No, they'd have to do a general plan amendment first.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were to revert the parcel back to residential, so it's yellow, it's zoned residential right now. So, if someone wanted to come in and propose something that is not residential, and we have taken the SPA area off, then they would have to change the land use designation on the general plan first. Then they could request a rezone, but you cannot rezone a property if it's not consistent with the general plan.
All right. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think we should hear from
Yeah.
our citizens.
Is there any other comments in here? Well, I've requested public comments. Be nice if we get it done before midnight. 3 minutes. First one I have is, see if I can read this properly. Diane Roth. You were the first one to submit. That's the direction it goes.
How's that? Whoa. That's good. Oh, put that a little further away. Now my 3 minutes starts, not the. Okay. To quote one of my favorite movies, Cool Hand Luke, what we have is a failure to communicate. And I think it's partly due to people not understanding what perception is. The dictionary tells us that it does not equal reality. It is an understanding or impression of something. So what has happened is the residents have the perception that the SPA was done in a very opaque way. Their impression is that during COVID, the SPA was pushed through without full community involvement. As I said, perception does not equal reality, but it is an impression, and the impression is that the SBA was not done on the up and up. We are not opposed to the towns needing to find long-term sources of income. What we would like to see is that all the effort that has been put into the northwest corner applied instead to the northeast corner, which is the money corner. It's where Cave Creek makes the majority of their operating income. So let us find a way to communicate and work together. An excellent start would be leaving the SPA out of the general plan. As I said, we're not opposed to development. Go back to square one, and if the SPA is the way to go, I'm sure the community would back it. The perception that you are not listening and is what we have. The way to cure that is to leave the SBA out, begin the process again in the light of day, and focus on the northeast corner. I too have an economics degree. I understand cash flow. That's where the money is, not the northwest corner. So please listen to us. We don't need to have a failure to communicate. Thank you.
Next one. Who's that? P.A. Marsh.
C.
Huh?
CA.
C.A. All right.
Some of these comments have probably been,
Mr. Use your speaker, please.
can you hear me?
Yes, now I can, yes.
Good. Some of these comments may not be necessary anymore. But I want to, first of all, put a big thank you out to 360 people who did a hell of a lot of due diligence and studying to figure out how they were going to add comments to this plan. And the reason that enthusiasm came to the fore is because we've been here since 2006. For most of that time, we didn't pay any attention to carefree politics, okay? Our mistake. Because all of a sudden we woke up like all the rest of these people and we saw an ugly hotel, ugly condos, ugly water plant down here that's a disaster, et cetera, et cetera. And then, all of a sudden, what the hell, let's put a resort down there at the corner of Carefree Highway and whatever. And everybody's like, what? Where did that come from? The previous comments about the other corner is where the money's gonna come from. And all the negative comments and fear comments about, oh, we're gonna run out of money. We're just not gonna have any money. There's a way that people run businesses when conditions change. And that's what'll happen if, in fact, that emergency comes up. But if you watch the traffic and you see what's going on around here and what's growing up around here, that other corner where the retail is gonna be a very attractive development, and it's gonna create a lot of revenues. And to hypothetically assume that that's not gonna happen, we're gonna be out of money, et cetera, that fear tactic deal is not what people are interested in right now. So, compliments to all the people. Compliments to all the people that put their input in. It's in. And it overwhelmingly, Matt, unless you got another way to look at 360 responses, was get that SPA out. And whatever goes there, to the chairman's point tonight, what the hell that corner is gonna look like after Scottsdale finishes fooling around with the road, et cetera, who knows? And so whatever the developer's gonna be, whether we got an SPA or not is not gonna be the main issue. The main issue is gonna be, what the hell can you do with this piece of property? So, in my opinion is, leave it out. The winds will blow in a favorable direction for Carefree. We'll have plenty of money, and that corner will be restored to some sort of a rational usage. But the other corner needs a lot of attention, and that's where we should focus. Thanks.
Next one I have here is John Mattis.
Good evening, John Mattis, Carefree, Circle Carefree. The spa, I don't want to beat a dead horse, came in the height of COVID. I believe it was the end of 2021, 2020, early 22 that it came about, and it's been said that nobody came to do development. Fact. In fact, nobody came to develop it as a residential since the inception of the town. It was zoned residential and nothing was ever built there. The idea that you think that something is going to be built there in the next few months or years, I don't know. It's already been a spa for over 2 years. What's happened to it? Nothing. There was a group that wants to keep the spa in the general plan. They were the ones that submitted 91 petitions to the town and to Matt after the close of comments. December 31st, 2023, it closed. Now all of a sudden, somebody, and you gotta ask what is the intention, wants to put the spa and keep the spa in with 91 petitions. I might also add that there's a person on the commission that did one of these petitions, Mary Roberts. I would hope, and I asked Mr. Fitzgibbons for a legal opinion today. I never got a response. I don't know if you are able to get a response, Mr. Cook, or not. To where I believe you should recuse yourself from any vote on this general plan because you tainted yourself by submitting one of these petitions that specifically says to keep that in. Too much town staff energy has been put into this. The elephant in the room, in my opinion, is the owner of the property never asked it to be a spa. That was by the town. Now, we are the town. Your residents also, but 360 people want it taken out. And if you expect this general plan to pass in November, I would suggest you take it out and keep it out. We also have a CVS pharmacy building, including the northeast corner, that has to be filled. It could be filled with somebody to generate probably a lot more tax than CVS has brought the town each year. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I might, just so we don't go down this rabbit hole about a potential conflict or anything like that, there's no proprietary or pecuniary interest, so we don't see, signing on to this email petition as a conflict that a commissioner would have to recuse himself for. Thank you.
Well, I didn't think so either, because we're listening tonight, and this is a work station, we're not voting on anything, to vote.
Mr. Chair, we are, the goal is for a vote as a recommendation to council.
Yeah, I understand. All right, next speaker, Janet Bibbs. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Good evening, Commissioners. Janet Vivas, Carefree resident. I want to make a point that the major amendment process lacked transparency. A special shout out to Mayor Crane and Councilors Croyer, Miller, and Hatcher for realizing it was a flawed process. Misinformation, issues around traffic, water, noise, pollution, and the failure of adjacent businesses were ignored. Efforts to engage residents failed, with few at the spa Zoom meetings. The amendment should have been delayed with COVID raging. Even with the distraction of COVID, the spa was approved as if no one would care or notice, but we did. At the last town meeting, a discussion occurred regarding the stakeholder signage committee, composed of residents and shop owners. The town should have insisted on a similar group to weigh the pros and cons of this amendment. Clearly, a spa designation for the northwest corner is far more significant than signage. Instead, abutters received a certified letter dictating a procedural timeline on the development of the northwest corner with two options: acceptance or pursue a complicated referendum to change the designation. We were advised of 2 neighborhood meetings, an open house with restrictions such as, quote, required face masking, 20-person limit, 6-foot distancing, not particularly inviting. Additionally, we would have unlimited access to the economic developer, who obviously favors the spa. Well, this was swirling around. Most residents were unaware and continue to be today. Given the enormity of the major amendment, a delay would have been the appropriate way to promote the transparency and inclusion with a cross-section of stakeholders. When residents had the opportunity to engage in the general plan workshop, they showed up and expressed more spa dissatisfaction in over 362 comments. Obviously, only a few town employees were making decisions when the general plan final draft revealed the spa designation remained. The so-called community-driven general plan may be better defined as town employee-driven. I'm not opposed to the building on that corner. I am aware of revenue needs and question why the land in the highly commercial northeast corner is still empty after 12 years. We've heard this many times tonight. Now along with the CVS building. As a resident stakeholder, I care about the future of our town, and I want the same options the more insignificant signage committee had. We only get this chance every 10 years. So we should restart the process with a stakeholder committee so residents can begin trusting the process. Thank you.
Next speaker, John Schreiner.
Bear with me a minute. I'm going to read in order to contain my passion for Carefree. John Trainer, Carefree resident, 24 years. I do not plan to repeat the information each of you and the council members have heard more than I care to think about. You were appointed by the council to represent us as the residents on matters relating to land use. You do not answer to the staff, not one of them. What we get, you are smart people. We get that. The town is full of smart people. And your life experiences matter, as does ours. How many actually have experienced experience in governance where you actually have to answer to people you represent? What is very troublesome in this matter is that a few of you may have personal relationships or allegiance to Les Peterson. But that should be irrelevant. If you cannot be impartial and ignore personal relationships, then you should not be voting on this matter. Your primary responsibility as a P&Z commissioner is to protect our zoning. That's your primary responsibility. So far, it seems that several of you may have forgotten that duty and have failed to hear the residents, or perhaps you just choose to ignore preferences regarding that spa on the northwest corner. Staff has no say. They don't live here. Les Peterson may have an option, but that's it. An opinion, but that's it. None of those individuals should attempt to influence or badger you to do their bidding. Speaking of Les Peterson, you should be asking yourselves, what's his deal? Why has he been pushing this spa on that property for years? Really goes back to 2017 when that property owner, just a friend, nothing more, purchased the remaining 10 acres in that area, the area that Les later arranged by a general plan amendment to convert to a spa. That took lightning speed during COVID. It was done in 2021. I won't go through what we went through in 2021. Is Les pushing this entire issue because he is altruistic, because of a personal relationship, or some other interest? I don't know, but I'm curious. If it smells like a fish, it's a smelly fish. Follow the mayor's lead. Follow the mayor's lead. Leave the spa out of the general plan. Thank you.
Next speaker, Barbara Hess.
Good evening. I'm Barbara Hess. I am a Carefree resident for 24 years. I'm going to be reading a letter from a Carefree resident that has been here for a very long time. He is unable to be here today. He's a family friend. Our incorporation committee, back in the day, had a major concern that Carefree would one day be run by out-of-towners, residents' wishes would be overrun by non-residents. We've been there for years. Our incorporation committee intended to prevent this by hiring a town administrator and not a town manager. The mayor and council would be in charge of the town, not the town administrator. Their foresight was indeed warranted. The threat today is evident. So here we are, 40 years later, and about half of those years, we have a town administrator who has gradually assumed duties and powers of the mayor and council, which should not have happened. Several recent administrations have been derelict in their duties, allowing and even encouraging this to take place. We are now in the feared position of the tail wagging the dog, with the out-of-towners dictating what we will get and where, assuming, of course, the town administration can keep it hidden from the residents, as they did with the important facts about automatic aid. Current Mayor John Crane gets it. He led the charge to remove the threat of the SPA and from the general plan after pressure from residents and despite pushback from other interested parties. Given the continued support for Mayor Crane, he will continue to listen what residents want, and we appreciate that. The solution is simple. Carefree needs to get its residents back in charge of running the show. Removal of the SPA was a good beginning, but our efforts can't start there. Unless we get the residents back in the driver's seat, the Resort Row and other unwanted projects will keep surfacing, just like the Hampton Inn was born in the back room of Town Hall. That was his letter. For me, I just want to add my displeasure to this discourse. I can't believe we're even considering putting it back in, even though the mayor and the council has, and the majority of the council asked for it to be removed. The residents want it removed. We understand we need revenue. We understand, I think we're reasonable people. We support development, but we do not support the way this was done. It was done backhanded, and it should be made right, removed, start again. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I might, if we can please not have any personal attacks, whether it be on the staff, the commission, just if you want to give your opinion on whether the SPA, the general plan, changes to the general plan, there's no need for any kind of personal attacks or, you know, insinuating that there's some shady business going on. You can please just relate it to the general plan. That's the topic for tonight.
Next speaker, Arthur Reves. Vivas.
Good evening, Commissioners, and happy post-Mother's Day to the mothers in the room. I want to share with residents the overarching theme surrounding the northwest corner, a huge land deal with all supportive parties expecting to make a profit, along with the landowner and speculative expectations for hotel revenue, although the hotel could drastically fail. Whether the party's profit is represented by money, employment promotions, land development, political intrigue, new town office, legacy, or pure ego, we've seen this theme throughout history in works of fiction and factual recounts from books, newspapers, and movies. It's like this. The owner of a highly desirable land area arranges a deal with another party, municipality, politician, local boss, etc. The ultimate reality is for both parties to gain something, as stated above. The problem that always arises is ignoring the greater picture affecting everyone else who are not part of this deal, i.e. the residents or losers. I and many aware residents of Carefree don't want to be exploited by this hidden game. It's also critical to note this town and landowner-generated game was afoot long before abutters within 500 feet of the northwest corner were notified in a town-certified letter in April 2021 about the plans for the SPA to be approved. It's also important to note our ex-mayor met with the landowner 29 times in his office for, quote, the landowner to complain or ask for something, unquote. So as I've stated before in town meetings, something is inappropriate. There's more than meets the eye. Merely a review of back and forth email records between former and current town officials, employees, landowner, and developers reveal a web of intrigue surrounding this issue as far back as February 2017, as noted in yesterday's Our Carefree newsletter, which should be required reading for all residents. It reveals the intentions behind the collaborating parties, including ostensibly the expensively bonded water project to bring water to 500 Carefree residents on the west side of Black Mountain and for commercial development of the northeast corner, when in fact an underlying part of the water plan was to provide a stub out to the northwest corner hotel, a massive benefit to the landowner for commercial development instead of its original zoning for 7 homes. Furthermore, our ex-mayor intended to make his legacy a reality by creating a, quote, resort row out of Carefree, similar to Paradise Valley, where coincidentally their residents recently are attempting to undo the adverse consequences of that mistake. So I caution all Carefree residents to become aware of the truth behind this plan. Thank you.
Kathleen Lai.
Kathleen Lai, Carefree resident. Good evening, Commissioners. Consider these 3 reasons why anyone arguing to reinstate the Northwest Corner Spa in the general plan for tax revenue reasons lacks validity and is a mistake. Reason number 1, excluding the Northwest Corner Spa from the general plan does not hinder the development or jeopardize future sales tax from this area. It grants Carefree residents greater control and protection over the type of development allowed. The idea is to be selective and to get the right project built and not any random hospitality business that the town of Carefree cannot undo, like the Hampton Inn. We are not against development. We are against ill-fitted or ill-conceived developments in Carefree. Reason number 2, restarting the major amendment process when Carefree has an interested developer for this corner would take approximately 6 months. The additional 6 months would do nothing to harm the town financially. It is a necessary step to garner community support and trust for the future of this parcel of land. There is no rush. Why don't you want to empower and protect the residents at the negotiating table? Reason number 3, if sales tax revenue were a concern and we now have water to the most lucrative piece of land in Carefree, which is the northeast corner of Carefree Highway and Cave Creek Road, let's prioritize and focus the development of this area with a viable business. Keep in mind that this parcel of land, like you have heard before from many people, has been designated as a spa and is primed for development since 2012. Over the last 7 months, the town council has listened and recognized the resounding feedback from the residents and directed the removal of the spa from the general plan. As commissioners, your allegiance should lie with the residents, who you pledge to represent, and respect the guidance of the town council who appointed you. We implore you not to succumb to the influence of a former mayor or to be swayed by town staff who lacks a stake in our community. Reinstituting the spa into the general plan would be a betrayal of trust to the residents of this town. Please keep the spa for the northwest corner out of the general plan. Thank you.
Sven Merrick? Did I reasonably pronounce that?
Yes, you did. Perfect. See if I can adjust this up. Sven Merrick, Carefree resident. Commissioners, let me bring this over here. Commissioners, are you the kind of person who wants to be known for doing the right thing? If so, please keep the spa out of the general plan. Keeping out the spa sends a powerful message that we as a community are willing to learn from our mistakes and forge a path forward, setting higher standards for ourselves as a community. Keeping out the spa demonstrates your commitment to integrity and accountability, reassuring our residents that their concerns are heard and addressed. We feel your pain. You are concerned that once the spa is removed, we would lose potential sales tax revenue from the area forever. That is simply not true. We've discussed this in detail. It will only force future developers to be more transparent with their projects, since they would have to approach the town administration with their desired plans first before a decision to rezone to commercial would be made. The community is not saying no to development. It is rather saying that we want to be involved and heard and be part of the process when projects are being considered. After all, we all live here and don't need another reminder of what a rushed project without checks and balances can bring to our town. You don't have to look any further than to this side. It is not your fault that the Hampton Inn was built. The decision was made during the COVID lockdowns and when the majority of us were focused on other aspects of our lives. You are not responsible for this monumental failure. But with your decision and vote today, you can prevent this from happening again. So commissioners, please do the right thing for Carefree tonight and keep the spa out of the general plan.
I should remind those speaking that there is not a vote tonight. This is a hearing and a work session.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair.
We can make a recommendation.
Yeah, it is a vote, but it is a recommendation. This is not the final decision. This is not, there will be a council public hearing and a council has to vote supermajority to send this to the voters for ratification.
Right. Thank you. Rick Kosmiski? think I may have butchered that, Rick, I'm sorry.
Pretty darn close, actually.
Huh?
Rick Kesmisky, Carefree Residence. Yeah, pretty good. Again, my hat's off to everybody who has been involved in this process and for the work that has been done to try and compile all of it. I like the idea, since the special planning area, is that right? Has to be approved first before the zoning changes. It seems basic and simple, and I agree with Commissioner Smith, just leave it in. But let's put some words in there that state, why don't we concentrate on the northeast corner first, and when somebody comes and says, I'd like to develop it, words that state, let's get the community involved in the process. That's all, thanks.
Thank you. Arian Busser? Is that close?
Hi, Arian Busser, but
Okay.
pretty close. Thank you. Nice to see everyone again, Carefree resident. And actually, don't really have any new comments, really based on what everyone else has said. I really appreciate everyone taking the time to come up here and give their input, because I was actually a part of the group that spent a lot of hours going through the general plan, sitting out in front of the post office for many, many weeks, working with Matt and the team, going to all the workshops. So I actually am very familiar with a lot of people's sentiment about removing the spa. And I think when it comes down to it is that we as residents just want some involvement in the process. And I think I was actually a part of the signage committee as well. And I think seeing that group from different backgrounds, diverse opinions, working really well together and making it a recommendation to the town was a really, really great way to go about trying to put something together for the town of Carefree. So why couldn't we do something like that for this? I mean, taking out the spa, it doesn't ruin anything for the future. If anything, it just kind of slows down the process. There is no rush. I don't think there's any rush to develop that corner personally. I think, as everyone has said here tonight, we should be focusing our efforts on the northeast corner and also filling the empty retail spaces we have right here in town. If you go around town, there are a lot of available for lease signs, and so I'm not really sure what's happening in those aspects. So I think there are other areas that we can work on getting our sales revenue. And I think, once again, we are all reasonable people here. We want what's best for the town. We do not want this to become an overdeveloped resort row area that's like Scottsdale, or even what Cave Creek, to be honest, is turning into. We appreciate the semi-rural nature of this town, and we really want to protect all of it, because we live here and we have to look at things every single day. I have to look at the Hampton Inn every day, unfortunately, and am in a constant reminder of that poor decision made a while back. So please listen to the residents. We are all here. We want what's best for the town, and let's try and do something that can really improve and kind of move towards the legacy of what we all hope Carefree to be in the future. Thank you.
Cindy Batkin? Huh? Bergen? Okay.
I should have been a physician. I don't have too much to add to this, but I am going to read through my statement. Chairman, commission members, staff, and members of the community, my name is Cindy Bergen. I am a community resident, and I have been an active participant, one of the 360 active participants in the Carefree General Plan process from the very beginning. I completed the initial survey, attended nearly all general plan meetings, Carefree Council meetings, and Planning and Zoning Commission meetings that included discussions around the Carefree General Plan. I combed through the initial document, the draft document, and submitted my edits and suggested changes, and made clear in that document what I would like to see included in the general plan. Last week, the Carefree Town Council discussed 4 proposed changes at length, sought clarification, and by majority, voiced approval to adopt these changes. The edits were made, and today this document is before you for your last review and your approval before ratification by Carefree Council. Let me remind you This is a community-driven process. I'm here today to support the removal of the SPA that was placed on the northwest corner of Tom Darlington and Carefree Highway. I know this has been debated many times, but I believe the SPA was placed with little to no public input during the COVID lockdown. Removing the SPA designation is the right thing to do. If sometime in the future, the local residents agree that an SPA should be placed on this acreage, the standard protocol should be followed that calls for public review and comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Maureen Benedito? Huh? Maureen?
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm not sure that I have a whole lot of additional information to share with you, but I do believe timing is everything. Why did Steve Propacek, a town employee, submit the northwest corner, the SPA of Carefree Highway and Tom Darlington amendment versus the landowner who lives in Carefree or a developer? If the special planning area is kept in our general plan blueprint roadmap, many Carefree residents wonder if plans of development for that northwest corner of Carefree Highway and Tom Darlington are further along than we are privy to. Remember in 2018, when Hampton Inn was knocking at the door of Cave Creek to build a boutique hotel casita. Here's a picture of it. It was pretty beautiful. That was in 2018. Just several months later, in February of 2019, Hampton Inn switched the project and decided to build this Hampton Inn. It's unattractive, uncharming, and it's a non-boutique hotel. Carefree residents want to give oversight so we don't get another Hampton Inn. Over 360 plus residents feel the northwest corner of Carefree Highway and Tom Darlington should be developed only when a developer brings a project forward so that we can, as a community, go through both the amendment as well as the rezoning project, which will indicate the financial benefit in terms of sales tax to Carefree. The special planning area designation should be removed from our general plan for that corner so we can start again. Thank you.
I have Nakisa Azi. Azizi? Azizi?
Azizi.
You have a lot of fun with that, don't you?
There are a lot of Z's involved. Okay, my name is Nakisa Azizi. I'm a Carefree resident. I'm also running for town council. And anyhow, I just wanted to briefly say that, you know, someone else had mentioned a dead horse, beating a dead horse. I feel like we're kind of beating a dead horse right now. You know, the people have spoken, the town council has spoken, and both have rejected the notion of a spa on that northwest corner. And therefore, we're really just going in circles here. We've already discussed all the pros and cons of having a spa at that corner, and we've arrived at a consent, or, you know, a majority of the town council and the residents, the majority of the comments that Matt received were opposed to the spa. So I do feel like this issue is resolved. I don't know why Commissioner Burns felt like it wasn't resolved at the beginning of this meeting. Just by a show of hands, who here wants to remove the spa? Okay, I mean, to me that seems pretty resolved. So I would just urge you to go with your gut on this and do what you believe is the right thing to do and represent the interests of the community, not whoever's in the background. I also wanted to say that Commissioner Smith, you brought up some good points, but I do think that the idea that we can just keep developing land every time we need more money is just not sustainable. And I had spoken with the town administrator many months ago about this, and he conceded that, developing that area isn't going to be a permanent solution to the needs of the town. And I think we have to look at the town council when we're concerned about fiscal matters. I think it should start with the town council and not always look to the land and make the wildlife pay the price for, fiscal irresponsibility, that may be taking place. So that's all I wanted to say, and I thank you for all your work on this matter, and I just urge the commission to remove the spa from the general plan. I feel like that would represent the will of the people and be more consistent with the town council's position on this. Thank you.
Stephanie Barber. Was I close?
Yeah, you get an A. Stephanie Barber, Carefree resident. Mr. Burns, you asked the question, what was the town council's thinking when they decided to remove the SPA or asked to remove the SPA from the general plan? And I think, I can't speak obviously for them, but the one question that really resonated with me was from Mayor Crane. And he specifically asked, if we took the SPA for the northwest corner out of the general plan and restarted the major amendment process when we actually had a developer that was interested, how much time would we lose? And the answer was 6 months. 6 months is nothing. We've been spending 7 months now revising our general plan. Just last week at the town council meeting, the town council praised the sign and circulation team. That team, that revised team, was actually formed because of huge opposition to the original sign proposal and the cost of it. And so instead of ignoring that opposition, the town council very rightly decided to revise that team and have them relook at the recommendation. That delayed process took 1 year. It took a whole year for that revised team to come back with a recommendation. I have not heard one single person upset about that extra year that they took. And just the opposite. The town council could not have had more praise. Mr. Probacek could not have had more praise for that sign and circulation team, which was a group of very, very differing personalities who finally came together and came up with, at the end of the day, a better recommendation. That took an entire year, not 6 months. 6 months, incredibly small price to play when it comes to earning community trust and support. Removing the SPA does not harm us financially. If 6 months is going to harm us financially, we're in really big trouble. It just simply adds a little bit of time to the process. But leaving the SPA in right now, that harms the community because you undermine the work that, as Matt said, the number of residents that have been involved in this from day one. It harms the community by leaving that SPA in. So I very respectfully ask the P&Z to please listen to the overwhelming majority of residents who have worked so hard for the last 7 months. Please keep that SPA for the northwest corner out of the general plan. Please respect the town council. Thank you.
Well, thank you, community members. We have no requests. Yes, sir?
I would like to speak.
All right.
I will fill out a form in a moment. My name is Les Peterson. My name has come up a number of times, and I respectively address the commission. I served on the Planning and Zoning Commission for 1.5 years before I was the mayor for 7.5 years. Many of the things that have happened here happened before a number of the people here many of the things that happened here, none of them were in shadows. They were all done totally openly. When the Hampton Inn was approved, there was not one negative voice in the room that spoke against it. It had already been zoned for that. But what I'd really like to talk, and before that I would say, personally, I'm for maintaining the SPA because it's gonna take longer than 6 months to change things when you do find someone. But that's up to you and the town council as to whether it goes forward on the general plan amendment. But I would like to address the unfounded and untrue criticisms of myself from Mr. Trainer and the gentleman in the back in the green shirt. I know John Lassen, the owner of this land, and we probably, in the 7.5 years when I was the mayor, we met 6 times, maybe it was 5, maybe it was 7. The bulk of those were with regards to an Eagle Scout project for his grandson Noah. He came to Candace French, the town clerk, and myself, and wanted a project for Noah to be able to earn the Eagle Scout badge. Candace, who administers the cemetery, said it needs cleaning up. Noah, in fact, did. He arranged 20 to 30 people to come out there. It tied in with the Veterans Day celebration and cleaned it up, and he earned the badge. So do I know John? Yes, I do. Do I have any dealings with John? Do I have any interest in that property? Absolutely not. And I resent people who have no factual basis for making unfounded accusations like you.
You have to wonder.
You can wonder all you want.
I know, I can, and I will continue.
Great, great. But since I'm wondering also, there was one time when I invited Mr. Trainer to participate in a major project, and that was the only time because the contribution was lacking. So I would say there's been nothing nefarious which has gone on. I have no interest. This one is up to you and the town council, and thank you all for your service.
Thank you. Any other comments? So, what? Oh, I'm sorry. Make sure you fill one out.
I'll fill out a form too. I'll be happy to. My name is Mike Braun. I am a Carefree resident. And I think that you've heard so much tonight in favor of taking it out or leaving it out, however you want to classify that. I'm curious as to how anybody can think that the town residents want to leave that in for the northwest corner. I am the person, I'm one of the people that objected to the sign committee, okay? I got on the sign committee, and I think that the sign committee came through with a reasonable recommendation. Went from $1.2 million down to 350. I don't think the town needs to spend $1.2 million on that. That's my opinion, okay? I also met with Steve and suggested that we have an economic development committee and an economic development fund and do more concentration on downtown and on the northeast corner where there is total revenue to be made. The revenue coming out of a resort on that corner, if it's a boutique hotel, is not going to be that great, number one. But secondly, I think you've seen and heard overwhelmingly the town does not want that left in the town, into the general plan at this point. I think if you leave it in, it'll get defeated. Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, thank you. Now, what do we have to do? Vote on the recommendation to move it forward as is, or?
Chairman Cross, first you close the public hearing, and then yes, you have to determine what kind of recommendation you would like to move forward to town council and vote on that recommendation.
Okay. So we do close the hearing. All right. So is there any comments from additions, subtractions, whatever, to the general plan the way we saw it this evening? Or forward it to the council?
I've heard it loud and clear. I've heard what the residents want. I know that the mayor is the CEO of this town, the current mayor, John Crane.
Yeah.
And the council recommended that it be taken out. I vote to take it out.
I second that.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Johnson, is that a motion, or was that, you just said you voted to take it out? I just want to clarify what.
If you need a motion, I will make a motion to remove it.
Okay,
from
so
the
just to
general plan.
clarify.
It's already removed.
Yes.
Yeah,
I-
that's-
To leave it
He wants to
removed
leave it removed.
So
leave it.
motion to approve as
As is.
presented.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, there's not anything, okay. Just do the one then? We could-
If there's been a motion, the motion would need a second. If there's
I
se-
second it.
Motion's
All-
been made and seconded, you can have further debate on that motion, and then there would need to be a vote. You can discuss, but there has been a motion and a second.
I can make a substitute motion.
Yeah, respectfully, Commissioner Burns, if there's been a motion and a second, there can be further debate on whether or not that motion will pass, but then we'll have, if there's a vote and then that vote does not carry, then we'd be back open to discussion again.
Well, I can't make a substitute motion?
No.
You'd have to get the consent of both the
I
first
need
and
a
the second.
What,
You would need the consent of both the first and the second that have made the motion.
I don't think so.
Who's the lawyer?
Okay, well,
Please, nothing for the public.
we can do that. I would, then discussion. I would oppose the motion on the table. You know, I just think that it's gonna send the wrong message. I think that it's gonna take a lot longer than 6 months. We've spent more than 6 months. If you spend a year on the signs, I would hope you're gonna spend more on the SPA. I would
Excuse
have
me, please, everyone had a chance to speak. We need to let the commission share their comments, okay? I understand the background noise, but the commission has the right to at least express, just like they listen to everyone. So let's just keep it civil. Thank you.
A couple of things. One, as I said, I think that the removing it sends the wrong message. I think that the timeline to readopt it with as much interest as we have in this topic now will take a lot longer than a year. Then you will face the rezoning question even if you approve it. I've heard no suggestion as an alternate to the resort. I've heard no suggestion of additional conditions that we want to put on it. I've heard a lot of talk about we ought to prioritize the Northeast versus the Northwest and take them in that order. And I'm thinking of a guy, somebody that has 5 daughters and makes an arbitrary rule that the eldest has to be married first. And if you don't marry the first one, you can't marry any of the other ones. Things don't happen linearly like that, especially in the development world. People that are looking to develop a resort would not be interested in the northeast corner that we're talking about. As in terms of the community being part of the process, I believe that the enhanced involvement for zoning is well-founded in this thing. And I think if somebody wants to boost that up to more than what's in there, I'd be open to that. I think that we ought to reinstate it. And my only other suggestion would be that we would reinstate it with a different color or a hatched mark on the land use plan. The spa that we have now is one color, and it's fortuitous that the spa and the zoning are in alignment. In the northwest corner, we would have a spa and zoning that are not in alignment, and I think that that ought to be like a hatched color to draw more attention to it and say that more work has to be done on that topic. So
Thank you.
I respectfully oppose the motion.
Well, the motion is to approve it as is. Do I have a second?
You have
I have a second.
call for the question?
All those in favor?
I'm in favor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm in favor.
I'm in favor. Are you in favor?
Mr. Chair, if I might, Mr. Chair, can we call a roll call vote, please?
Say what?
Can we call a roll call vote, please?
We have a motion, we have a second, and we need a roll call vote now. We'll start with Ms. Smith. Commissioner Dymal? Chairperson Cross?
I am in favor.
Vice Chairperson Roberts?
I'm opposed.
And that concludes the vote. We have, and, well, okay, well, Peter, all right. Commissioner Dahlman,
I'm for it,
to keep it in.
yes.
I mean, to keep it the way it is.
Keep it the way it is.
Okay.
Correct, keep it the way it is.
Okay. Commissioner Burns,
Vote no.
and Commissioner Johnson,
I'm for it.
Mr. Chair, the vote failed, so the vote
Say what,
failed.
excuse me?
The motion failed.
All right.
So it's back to debating. You can entertain another motion.
Mr. Chairman, I have a motion. That one doesn't work, I don't. Mr. Chairman, I have a motion to reverse the council's recommendation and the changes that are in the draft in front of us with respect to the SPA area, with one other slight change, and that would be to put in a hatch coloring on the northwest spa to distinguish it, and it's differential from the northeast spa.
Second?
I'll second that.
I second the motion.
Well, any further,
Is there discussion?
further discussion?
Yeah, so what I think is important here is that we look at what the community wants. And so it's not what I want, it's what I'm hearing resoundingly that they voted for. That's where I stand with this. We should consider that.
Well, my thoughts in the process are that, I mean, it has the zoning, and it has the method to come back if somebody comes up with an intelligence proposal to submit to it. And so I think we ought to leave it at that. And any other discussion?
And I'd like to add that we are listening to the community, but there,
Please, 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 could everyone please, decorum.
listening at this, we don't have unanimity on this point, but we're on the commission to bring experience and background to make our own judgment. And even with the 360 some odd comments that were made on the plan, not every single comment was about the SPA. That has been incorrectly made the point that everybody talked about taking the SPA out. Not all of the 300 some odd comments were about the SPA. And even if they were approximately 10% of the residents. So we don't know what the other 90% say. Regardless, I think that the idea of keeping this as a special area that can be looked at, will seek community input. The assumption that it's only gonna take 6 months to change it again, even if it took 6 months, in my experience, a developer will then seek another site that may be more readily available. So I am in favor of Commissioner Burns' motion.
I apologize to be out of order, but I did want to just make a point of clarification that we do have a motion. It's very specific about the hatch. if that does move forward, I just want to be clear on what everyone's voting for. All the other SPA edits that were taken out would not be being placed back in because that is not part of the motion. So,
No, it was to replace everything that was taken out.
Okay,
with
sorry,
the
I-
addition, modification.
of the hatch. I
color.
missed that. I apologize. Thank you.
Any further comments? Sam, you want to go?
Commissioner Smith, how do you vote? I'm in favor of the motion. Commissioner Dymoke, how do you vote?
I'm in favor.
Commissioner Dahlman, how would you vote?
I'm not in favor.
Chairperson Cross, how do you vote?
I'm not in favor.
Vice Chairperson Roberts, how do you vote?
I'm in favor.
Commissioner Burns,
In
who made the
favor.
motion? And Commissioner Johnson?
Not in favor.
Mr. Chair, the motion carried.
All right. Is there any further discussion on this? We have to vote and make a recommendation to the council as we forward it the way.
Mr. Chair, that was the motion was to forward that recommendation to council to include the spa back in with the hatch being different colored to the northeast corner.
All right.
I believe the next item is announcements.
In that case, we're,
I have no announcements this evening.
say what?
There are no announcements this evening.
All right. I guess the meeting's adjourned then.
You got to call,
Huh?
motion to
Oh,
adjourn.
someone's-
Motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned? All those in favor? Aye.
More changes to make.
Sammy?